Hey there, welcome back to another review, this time of one of my favorite films from last year, Nerve. Now, Nerve is a movie I was always curious about because I did like the trailer and I liked the concept of the movie. It really did appeal to me. It was like something, it was similar to The Running Man, and I'm a big fan of The Running Man. Now, it's no Running Man, but very few films are. So, it was definitely more Running Man than The Hunger Games, and I was kind of leery. I was leery about the film because it seemed like it was more of a young adult orientated movie, and a lot of those have a lot of cringe in them, and so I was kind of expecting a lot of that here. But that was not the case. I actually really enjoyed the movie. Now it's flawed. I would say it's not as great as I remember it being when I watched it the second time around because I noticed a few more flaws, but it's not that flawed though. I don't think it's as bad as some critics make it out to be. It's not, there really isn't really a lot of mixed stuff for me to say about this movie in terms of my opinion on Nerve. I personally think it's a really solid, good movie. Maybe it's not a great film, but it's a good movie. And it's anchored by the two leads, Emma Roberts and Dave Franco, who have great chemistry with one another. They're a really nice couple. And so you care about them, and when they get into these dangerous situations, you want them to come out alive and okay. And there's some really inventive, fun dares, like the one that's featured on the cover here, where they're supposed to drive on the motorcycle, hit like 60 miles an hour, blindfolded. So, yeah, it's got a really cool concept, a good idea. It has a good message to it about the dangers of social media and about people how anonymous people can be on social media and how if you witness some bad shit happening and you do nothing about it, well, you're just because you're a watcher, that doesn't make you exempt from responsibility. So it does have some nice messages, and it's based on a book. Apparently, I've never read the book by Jean Ryan, so I can't really compare the two. It's directed by Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman, and Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman, they're two directors that before this did stuff like Catfish, and it was kind of surprising that the film ended up looking as good as this movie does. This movie has some really nice visuals in it. That's one of the main things about the movie that's going to keep me coming back to it is its visual style. I love it. I absolutely love watching this film just to watch the visual style. I love the neon colors. I love the look of the film, the lighting, and all of that. I really enjoy it. It's a visual splendor. It really is. And the direction is not that bad. It's actually pretty good. It's based on a screenplay by Jessica Sharzer, and it stars Emma Roberts, who is the daughter of Julia Roberts, and I'm not really that familiar with her. I think she played Nancy Drew in a Nancy Drew film that didn't do very well, but I don't really have a lot of fond memories associated with her, or really any memories. So this is one of the first performances I saw from her. I thought she was fine. Um, Dave Franco was good too. I think he was perfectly cast. I really do like Dave Franco. I liked him ever since I saw him in 21 Jump Street. So I think he's a young up and coming actor that I really do look forward to seeing more from him in future films. Actually, it was Neighbors, not 21 Jump Street. He might have been in that too. But I know he was in Neighbors, and I liked him in Neighbors. Not so much in Neighbors 2, but that's not his fault. It was a screenplay. Featured a score by Rob Simonson. The score is there. I think this really could have used a synth score in the vein of something like Blade Runner or kind of the music they hear in the retro new wave or new retro wave scene on YouTube and on the internet with these synth artists who create these tracks and stuff like that that are, they're inspired by 80s music. And I think that this film could have definitely used that, but it does use some great song choices. Some people might call them hipster music. Yeah, some of it is, but it's kind of I'm not really a hipster, but this is kind of a hipster movie, but I still like it though because I like the idea. I like the idea of the game that people are playing, Nerve, which is this game which has really started to become really popular in New York City. And you go on the computer and you either sign up as a player, where you can take on these various dares for money and for fame, or you can be a watcher, pay a certain fee, and you're a watcher, and you can watch people attempt these dares. So that idea alone really does draw me to the film and will keep me coming back to the movie because, yeah, it's kind of similar to other movies like The Running Man, but it's not the same. It's similar, but it puts its own spin on it, which makes it something that I'll keep coming back to. Um, and yeah, it does have a great cast. I mean, Emma Roberts, Dave Franco. Emma Roberts plays Venus, V. DeMonico. She's the protagonist of the film. She plays the game because she decides to break out of her shell and show to her friends and family that she can take chances and she can be daring. And speaking of the game, that's another thing this film reminds me of, is The Game by David Fincher featuring Michael Douglas. Um, but this is more of the game for this new millennium. And yeah, it's a game. It's the game for millennials. And they do a good job creating the look of the film and the computer program and all of that and the whole game Nerve. I love the little touches they use in the film. Like they show it right here on the back here, where you see that there's all these people's different Twitter handles that go up on the skyline that really do, with a lower budget, find a way to show you how vast and how wide Nerve has spread across the city. You also have Juliette Lewis, who, of course, has been in a lot of things. She was in Metro Born Killers. She's in this as V's mother. And you have Machine Gun Kelly, who apparently is a rapper, I believe, who's one of the opponents in the game. He actually isn't that bad. I thought it was Macklemore, but it's Machine Gun Kelly. What do I know? I am not familiar with any of these rappers or hip hoppers. It's not really my style of music that I really enjoy. And a few other actors and actresses like Miles Heizer as Tommy, Emily Meade as Sydney, one of V's friends. Emily Meade, she reminds me a lot of Catherine Isabel, and that's a good thing because I like her as an actress, and I think she's a pretty girl. I think she's a beautiful woman. Um, Kimiko Glenn plays Liv, one of V's friends. You also have Samira Wiley, who's like a leader of these hackers. And the stuff they were doing definitely did remind me of the movie Hackers. I can definitely say this: if you like the film like Hackers, I think you probably get a kick out of this movie. And you also have some YouTube personalities like Casey Neistat shows up as himself as a player. Um, so yeah, I'm not really familiar with the guy. I know he does vlogs and he's like super popular with the vlogs, but it's not really my thing, I guess. And I'm just really not gonna. I mean, what's the point? I don't really want to give away a lot of the film. I actually want people to go see this movie. I know it's a film that's been out for a while. As you can see, I have the Blu-ray. But if it's a movie that interested you from the trailer, or the concept interests you at all, I would recommend you give it a watch. Um, because I think it's definitely worth watching. It's got some great visuals. The dares are cool and inventive, and I think the film does a good job upping the ante. I like the climax. A lot of people say it's anticlimactic, but I think it works well within the film, and the message still gets across, and honestly, if it ended the way that a lot of critics wanted it to, which is a spoiler, having V die, I would be pissed. So I'm glad that didn't happen. Um, yeah, I gave away some, but I said spoiler. So, and the movie's been out for a while, so it's not like I'm spoiling very much. I'm like the only person who's probably reviewing this movie this late anyway. So, but so it's not. I'm not really gonna be spoiling that much. But the ending, there are people complaining about it, and hey, that's cool. You know, the movie would have been damned if it did, and damned if it didn't. Because if it did do what it ended up doing with the ending, which I like actually, because it actually surprised me. Oh my god, a happy ending in a film like this where nobody dies? Wow. You can get your point across that, maybe you should not be an accessory to murder by just agreeing to watch somebody get killed for your amusement, Thunderdome style. You know, maybe you don't need to see people die to get that point. Maybe you can just get the point with a big spectacle, a show of what might happen if you this actually did happen and somebody did die. You would all be an accessory to murder. So maybe you should log off and go outside, or just just do something more with your life than just watch people do outrageous stunts and some crazy version of Fear Factor. um but that's just my personal opinion. I think the ending is fine. I think it works well within the film. I think if the movie ended with a depressing ending where V dies, it would not have fit the tone of the film. It would have came out of left field, and it just would not have worked. But there are people out there who feel that it would, and it would have given the film more of an impact. And they think the movie's good up until the ending, and they think it's contrived and it's cliched and it's dumb, and that's fine. To each their own. But I didn't really have an issue with it. I personally feel that the film could have used an R rating, though. I think the R rating would have helped really give it more impact, because the dares could have been more intense. It could have had more action, and there would have been more weight to it. Now, it could have still had the same similar tone, but it could have still easily been rated R. It just could have had just a little bit more to it, a more gravitas, which it doesn't really have. Um, and I could use a bit more action, and some of the dares seem a bit pedestrian. So it would have been nice to see a little bit more of raising the stakes. Um, and the whole sort of tech stuff near the end, to be honest, that was a lot of bullshit. Where it's all like, oh, we're gonna hack into the whole nerve network and we're gonna shut it down, and because of our magic hacking powers. Yeah, that's Hollywood for you, but Hollywood hacker logic. But even though that was definitely something that was pretty noticeable that I rolled my eyes at, I liked the film, so it didn't bother me that much. If I didn't like the movie, then yeah, sure, I'd rail on it. But like my friend says, normally I don't. He doesn't focus on those things unless the movie sucks. And I agree. I don't focus on those things that much unless the movie sucks. And I didn't think Nerve sucked. I thought it was a good movie. So, um, but if I did think it would suck, man, I would totally use that as ammunition. I'd tear the film. I'd just use it as another bullet into its head. But I didn't feel that way about the film. I didn't. Now, I know the directors, they actually strive for a PG-13 rating because they wanted to make sure that younger teenagers could see the film. They say they think it has an important message and they think that they'll dig it. We weren't too interested in making a gross torture movie. I'm glad. That's not what I wanted from this film. What I'm talking about with our rating is just having more leeway, having more flexibility to have crazy out there stunts and dares. That's what I meant. Not torture porn. I don't want that. And trying to keep the rating down, the director's acts a sex dare scene that was ultimately just too dark and weird. And the film also had a lighter ending and theme than the book, and the novel apparently deals with a much darker plot and an ending. I'm actually fine with the lighter plot. That was a breath of fresh air to see a film like this that has a good idea, and it has two really likable lead characters who are really good with each other and have great chemistry and charisma and are a nice couple, and the romance is believable and it doesn't feel shoehorned in, at least not for me personally. And you go along with the ride with them, and it didn't really need to be dark. But like I was saying, with an R rating, you can be R rated and still have a light tone. Look at Deadpool. That's not a dark film. Um, but yeah, it's an interesting, intriguing film that really does leave you thinking afterwards, about what is going on in the world today. How disconnected we are from reality, and how connected we are, and how obsessed we are with the internet, with computers, and how, this anonymity has enabled people to essentially do things and watch things and do a lot of stuff that they would not do if they weren't anonymous. This culture of anonymity, if I can even say the word, this culture of anonymous people, um, is honestly pretty terrifying. It's pretty scary. And then also it's really flawed, because you got a lot of people who think, oh, well, I'm hiding behind a computer screen, so I'm not responsible for stuff that happens. I'm not responsible for, these two people dying because I voted for them to die. Uh, you know, I'm not responsible for that. I'm just watching it. No, you still are responsible. You're an accessory to murder because you're still watching it and you voted for these people to die. And it's crazy. And I absolutely would not be surprised if this became a real thing. Like, maybe not as complex and as convoluted, or not really, convoluted isn't really the right word, but definitely not as complex as the game is in the movie. But I could totally see this becoming sort of a thing. And that's scary. That's really terrifying to me. Because a lot of people out there, they're willing to do anything for fame. And nowadays, and just like any day, really, people are willing to do anything for money. So you combine those two together, and that's a very attractive proposition. That's a very attractive thing to a lot of people. So anyway, yeah, I really don't know what else to say about the movie, except it. I guess I'm not the only one that liked it, because it did pretty well in the box office at a budget of like 20 million, and it made $83 million. So it was decent hit, and I don't need a sequel. I have no need for it. No, I really don't want one. I think the film ends fine. It tells its story, it wraps things up. There's a weird little, like, kind of sequel bait thing at the end, but I really don't think that's necessary. It's kind of maybe hinted at that maybe Nerve is back online, but not really. It's pretty vague. So honestly, I think I could definitely do without that. But yeah, I mean, it's got good directing by Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman. The screenplay is pretty solid by Jessica Scharzer. It's got some good performances by the cast. The cinematography by Michael Simmons, I think, is absolutely gorgeous in certain scenes. I love the look of this film. Uh, the way he shoots New York at night, the way it just shoots everything. It really does bring the film to a whole nother level. I love the aesthetic in this movie. Uh, the kind of color scheme that you see on this cover is what you see in the film. And it's really nice to see something like that. To see this colorful film. Oh my God, there's colors. It's not washed out. It's not, there's no color filters to the point where you can't see any color. So I really did appreciate that. And the editing by Madeline Gavin and Jeff McAvoy is definitely admirable. It's definitely worth praising, because there's a lot of different things that they throw in. The way that they show how the social media works and how people are interacting with Nerve, and all of that is really clever and really well done. And done in a very unique, fun way. So yeah, the film's entertaining. It's fun to watch, but it also has its fair share of thrills. It's got likable characters. So yeah, I mean, the only problems I have with it could use a bit more action, could maybe have an R rating, and but that's really the only issues that I have with the film, and they're very minor. So yeah, even with the second time around, it's not as good the first time, but it's still a very satisfying film. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about Nerve, except if I was to rate it out of 5 stars, I would give the movie 4 out of 5. It's not quite 5, but it's close. It's close. If it was R, if it had a few more edgy scenes and not like edgelord stuff or anything, not August Underground bullshit, just have a little bit more of an edge, have more action, then I might even put it up there as a 5 star flick. But as it is, it's not quite up there with The Running Man or The Game, but it's close. And, it's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I was interested in the film. I was always curious about the movie, but I never expected that I was going to like it as much as I did, let alone like it enough to get it on Blu-ray. Which actually, my cousin got this for me, which I gotta say thank you so much. And it was really nice of him, and it was a wonderful gift. I'm really glad I have it because it does. It looks great on Blu-ray, and it's a movie that I am glad to have in my collection. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching my review of Nerve, and I will see you guys later. See ya.